Hi, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace your garage door opener. I'm going to be replacing an old Chamberlain LiftMaster with a new Chamberlain that has video capability, Wi-Fi capability, and all that. The old one is a chain drive. This one's going to be a new, quieter belt drive. So stay tuned. So the first thing we're going to have to do is take down the old garage door opener. I'm going to start by unplugging it from the outlet up above, and then I'm going to mark my wires that are coming out the back, and I'm going to proceed to disconnect the arm here, this L-shaped arm, disconnect it from the wall, and disconnect it from the bracket up above. So let's first unplug it from the outlet above. Then we're going to come down here and we need to mark our wires so we know where to connect them with the new one. So on my Chamberlain, I have one pair of wires going into the left two openings, and then two pairs going into the right two openings. So the two on the left are the ones coming from the wall connector, the button on the wall by my door. The other two pairs come from the sensor down by the door, the safety sensor. So I'm going to mark this with a piece of tape so I can remember to put it back in the first two spots on my new garage door opener. Now that I have the wire that's going to the first two spots marked with my tape, I can go ahead and I can push in these orange connectors and pull the wires out. It's a little bit hard to do with one hand. Here I'm holding the camera, but in any case, push these orange connectors in and then pull your wires out. You can pull all of them out, pull them out of this thing, and you can just leave them free. So the next thing that you'll need to do is disconnect this L-shaped bracket. So you can remove the ring and take out this lower pin, and then remove this ring and take out the upper pin. Now you're going to want to position a ladder underneath your garage door opener like this, because we're going to take the two bolts out that are in the angle brackets on each side and then lower the garage door opener to rest on top of that ladder. Now that you have it disconnected and sitting on top of the ladder, now you can go up and lift that, move the ladder out of the way, and swing it down to be sitting on something like a bucket, something more near the floor. Now that we've lowered it down and it's sitting on a bucket, it's still connected up here on the end. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to go up here, remove this, this ring, and pull out that pin. Then the whole assembly will be loose and you can go set that aside. Now that the old garage door opener is removed, we can go ahead, you can see it here, I just got it setting aside on the floor. We can go ahead and start the assembly process for the new one. Now through this process, we are going to be able to reuse the bracket that's on the door, but we're going to require a new bracket that's up on the wall. So the new opener is not compatible with the old bracket. So here's all the parts that were in the box. I got them all laid out here. We're not going to need all of this stuff right now, so I'm going to go ahead and set the things that we're not going to use off to the side. So you can see the rails here, and we're just going to connect these end to end. So the way it works is this end will plug in to this and so on. So I'm going to connect all these up together. Obviously this one will be on one end, and then all the rest will plug in to tie them all together. And the way they all connect is you just push one in there and you just push it down. You may need to tap up on the end here with a mallet, but I haven't had to do that. You can just push them all together until they're together nice like this. Now that you have all 5 sections attached, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set your track up with this yellow sticker facing up, okay? Then come down the track, and on the second section of track, you're going to want to put a screwdriver through this hole and just stick it through like that. Now with your track laying sideways, as indicated by the screwdriver here, you can see it sideways, you want to slide the trolley on this end in this orientation like this. Then you're going to want to slide the trolley down a little bit so that this hole is exposed. And then you're going to take this bolt and go in through the top and then tighten this nut on the bottom side. And to tighten that, you'll use a, what was it, a 5/16 to hold this end and a 7/16 to tighten the nut. Then you can take this bracket and you can slide this into your track in this orientation until it snaps into place. Now you're going to want to get something protective up here because you're going to set your garage door opener upside down here so that you can attach the rail to it. Okay, now you're going to want to remove these two bolts and then you're going to set this down in position and use those two bolts to tighten it into position. And to do that, you can use a 1/2-inch socket. Okay, now this is what this should look like. Now we're ready to start routing the belt down your shaft here, and it's going to get fed through this rectangular hole on the side. Okay, so when you feed it through, you want this end of the belt to be in this orientation. So go ahead and feed that through like that, just like that. Okay, the next step is going to be to install this idler pulley in the slot on the rail. And you're going to use this bolt with the shoulder on it, along with a lock washer and a 3/8-inch nut. So you'll just slide the wheel in here, take the bolt, feed it down through there, put the lock washer and the nut, and then go ahead and tighten that with a wrench. So you can go ahead and hold the nut with a 9/16 wrench and use a 5/8-inch socket or a 5/8-inch wrench up on the bolt side. Now the next thing that you need to do is you got to bend this tab up to a 90-degree angle. You can do that by sticking a screwdriver in here and bending it as best you can, and then I'm going to grab this pliers and finish bending it up to a 90-degree angle. Now what you need to do is pull this down. You can pull it on that wheel, pull it down to your trolley, and connect it into the trolley. So you turn it like that and then tip it into position. Now the next step of the process will be to slide the trolley all the way down until it hits that tab that you just bent out. Then make sure the belt is wrapped around that wheel and make sure the belt is not twisted in any way, ensuring it keeps the teeth facing inward, and come all the way down here, down to the motor, wrap it around the teeth on the motor, and then bring it all the way back down near the trolley. You can see that it's down here near the trolley, and just set it there. Now when you put this belt on here, I would suggest pulling it as taut as you can without stretching it and getting it around a tooth pulled fairly taut. You can see that there's not a lot of sag in the belt. Okay, then you're going to take this screw with a spring on the end. You're going to thread the spring off of it and set it aside for the moment. And then when you look at this screw, let's see if we can focus. There's a flat edge right here. Okay? So what you're going to want to do is line that up with the flat in here so you can feed it through. Otherwise, it won't go through. Once you do that, thread this back on like this with the washer facing the right side. And just thread it on some threads. Okay, now it's time to put the master link on. And it's this part right here. You can see this master link, and there's like a washer, a double washer, and like a clip. So the way you do that, you come in from the back side, and then you connect your belt up to it, making sure your belt is not twisted. Make sure the teeth remain on the inside all the way around. Then you put this double washer thing on, and then the clip. And the way it seems to work best is if you start the clip like that, and then take a needle nose and kind of grab it a little bit and push it into position. And that locks that into place. Now the next step will be to tighten this spring nut. Now you don't want to use tools. You just want to hand tighten it. So with your right hand you can kind of pull on the belt and just snug this up. You may want to go down to the motor end, make sure that we're hooked around the motor good. And if you are, then you can continue to pull on this a little bit with the right hand and tighten up with the left. And again, you don't want to use a tool to do this. It just needs to be tight by hand. So let's just make sure that we're good and tight. Oops. I don't think I was supposed to release that spring yet. I think I did that on accident, but we'll see how that worked out. So the next step of the process was supposed to hold the washer here and then turn this down, and that would release the spring. But through my messing around, putting the belt on there, it released it ahead of time. But the good news is that was the next step of the process, was to release that spring, because they wanted you to have this finger tight and then release the spring. So I had already had it finger tight and then just released the spring on accident. But in any case, that set the optimal tension on the belt. Now the next step of the process is to remove these 3 small screws using a 1/4 inch driver, and then we're going to place this cap over it and put those screws back in to hold this in place. Now the next step of the process will be to install this bracket on the wall. Like I said earlier, this bracket will not need to be used because it's the same bracket that's already on the door from the previous garage door opener. But this one needs to be on the wall. And you can differentiate them. They are a little bit different shape, but this one says header. So this is the one that goes on the wall. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this old one off and just mount the new one right in the same position. Now I'm going to get ready to mount this end of the track up on the wall in the bracket that I just installed up there. And what we're going to do is we're going to do something similar to what we did when we took the old one down. We're going to set the motor of the garage door opener here. We're going to have the ramp up at an angle up to the position where it mounts to the bracket. And we're going to use a clevis pin with a one of these rings to hold it in place. And this is the longest clevis pin that comes in your kit. There's 3 sizes. This is the longest one. So here you can see I have the motor and track sitting on the box, something that won't scratch the top, the underside of the motor, the plastic. And I have the track going up, and I have it connected into that bracket there with that clevis pin and a ring to hold it in place. Now the next step is going to be to lift the motor up and set it on top of the ladder, reverse of what we did taking down the old one. This is a lot easier if you have somebody helping you, but it's definitely doable one person though. Now you can see the motor is sitting on top of the ladder, but we have a little bit of a problem here. You can see where the mount is, and the mount is quite a ways further back compared to the motor than the other garage door opener. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to move that mount over to the next rafter, like to the right here, to the next rafter to attach the motor to the bracket, and it'll be pretty much right above it at that point. But it's way too far to the left here. So we're gonna have to move that whole bracket to the right. Now to move the bracket, if you have a finished ceiling, it's a little harder, but I know in my garage, I can see some marks where the screws are, so I can easily identify where the rafter is. But if it's an open ceiling, it's obviously even easier. But I shouldn't have much problem there. I'm gonna measure to where the exact center is from the direction right to the middle of the door. I'll measure the distance from the wall over, down at the track where it's mounted way down there by the wall. And then I'll measure that same distance here over, so I can get this motor mounted exactly in the center of the door, and just move this over to the next rafter. Okay, now that we got the bracket moved, let's try this again. Okay, now you can see the bracket's a little bit forward, but we can definitely make this work. It'll just have to flex a little bit back. So now I'm gonna climb the ladder. I'm gonna lift the motor into position on those brackets, and I'm gonna put a bolt in each side with a nut to hold it in place. Now, one thing that I did not have to do is figure out where the new garage door is gonna hang down, how far from the ceiling, because since it is a replacement of a Chamberlain, it seemed to be already set just fine the way it was. Now, if your track is sloping too far up or too far down, you will have to shorten or lengthen your rails coming from the ceiling. Like I said, in my case, it's close enough that I can leave the length the way they were. The next step is to feed the rope handle through that hole there and tie a knot to hold it in place. Now what you're going to want to do is release the trolley and push it all the way down to the end where it stops. Now what you'll want to do is you'll want to take this bracket with all the holes in it, and the side without all the holes that just has one hole, feed it up inside in between here, and run your shortest pin, the shortest pin in the kit, run it through the trolley and through this bracket, and put the ring on the end. Then you want to take this L-shaped bracket and mount it like this to the bracket on the door, and put the middle length pin that came in your kit with the spring or the ring fastener. So you're going to want it to be out like this with these multiple holes on this side of it. Now with the trolley pushed all the way that way and this rail hanging down, you swing the L-shaped one up to line up with two holes in this bracket. And you're going to want to try to get those holes as far away from each other as possible. This is how it worked out in my particular case. Okay, now we're going to re-engage the trolley and get it to lock in there. So now the trolley is re-engaged with the track. Now the next thing I need to do is remove the old button on the wall and install the new one. So to remove the old one, you got to get a screwdriver up here, pop off this plastic cover here, and then you have a screw here, and you take that out and then slide it up and it'll come off the wall. Now once you have it off the wall, you can see there's a red and a white wire here. You'll remove those and you'll attach it to here to the R and the W. Now once you have the wires connected, you can just attach this back to the wall the same way the old one was. Uses the same holes. So the next step is to find the one that you have marked with a piece of tape, feed it through this opening here, and then we're going to connect it into here. And the red wire is going to go into the red one. Just push it in. And the white wire will go into the white one. Then we're going to feed the other two sets of wires in. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed the two white wires into the white, and then the two red wires are going to go into the black spot. Okay, now we need to connect the new brackets for the sensor by the opening here. We could have probably kept the old bracket, but I just decided to put the new brackets on because we are going to have to put the new sensor on. And so I cut and stripped this back. This is the wire that goes into the wall, so I can connect the new sensor onto this wiring. So now what you're going to want to do is take your new sensor, cut the wire off because it comes on a big spool. That's for running if you have to run it all the way up to your garage door opener. We don't have to because we're just tying into the existing wiring. So you're going to take your new sensor, you're going to put this screw into it, this one here that came with. Stick that guy in there, put it in here, and tighten it with a wing nut. So after you get the sensor here, you're going to just want the sensor to point, for the most part horizontal, and then tighten down that wing nut. Then you're going to want to make your electrical connection, and you're going to connect the white wire, the solid white wire, to the white wire coming out of the wall, and then the white wire with the black stripe to the red wire. Now, this might be different where you are, but what I have, the wiring that I have here, that was the way that it's set up. After doing this side, you're going to go and you're going to repeat this on the other side of the door. Okay, so now we are ready to plug this guy in. So go ahead and plug it in. And the LED came on. And it appears as though we're ready for the next step. Now, you'll know you have it wired right if one of the little lights on this one sensor is yellow, and then the other one over here should be green. Now, if one of these sensors was misaligned, they wouldn't be lit up like this. So this means they're aligned. So if they're not lit up like this, loosen the wing nut, make a little bit of an adjustment in order for the LEDs to light up. Now, you wanted to engage the trolley, so you want to get the trolley engaged, and if that is engaged, then you want to come up to the opener and you want to hold down this middle button until the arrow flashes. So once the arrow flashes, you push this button and you hold it in until the door opens to the position you want it to open to. So you can let go and you can continue on if you want. And basically what we're doing here is we're setting the open position. So once you get the garage door open to the position that you want it to be, then push the middle button, the light flashes, and then the down arrow starts blinking. So then you just push the down arrow until the garage door goes down to the position that you want it to be in the closed position. So you just hold it down, and again you can stop and start back up if you want to get it exactly where you want it to be. So I'm just slowly coming down with it. There. And then push the middle button. The garage So the garage door is now programmed, and what it's doing is it's running through that whole cycle. It's going to come all the way up to its totally open position and then go all the way down. And all this beeping is perfectly normal. It's just warning you that the door is going to start moving. So you can see it closing. And there, it hit its down position. You are now done programming the garage door opener. Now you can see that my belt is kind of loose here. Now I think that had something to do with when I was installing this and the spring accidentally discharged. So what I'm going to do is I'm feeling how tight this side is. See, this side is tight. But now this side over here is what's loose. I'm just going to turn this nut until this side feels about as tight as this side. So I'm kind of glad I had that mishap on the tightness of the belt. That way I could show you, what it takes to tighten the belt if you ever need to tighten it, or if something similar happened to you. So now I can see and feel that both sides of this belt are about the same tightness, same tautness. So I feel like it's more properly adjusted now. So let's run it through its cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And you can see the belt is not flopping around anymore. It was flopping around before when it was opening and closing. So now let's go ahead and close it. Now you can see the belt remains tight through the entire operation. Now the next thing we need to do is test the safety features of the door. So what's supposed to happen is when the door closes, and if it hits something like a 2x4 or something like that or bigger, it'll reverse. So let's go ahead and see if that works. So I have the 2x4 sitting there, and it went down, it hit it, and it reversed. So that's exactly what it's supposed to do. If it runs into something, it's supposed to turn around and open back up. So the next safety feature is to check to see if something moves in front of the door, if it's going to reverse. So I'm going to start the door going down. As you can see, it's going down. Then I'm going to kick my foot in front of the sensor here, and you can see that it reversed direction and started going up. Since I got the version of the door that has a battery backup system, I'm going to show you how to install that battery. Yours may or may not have this. So you're going to open up this door. Then you're going to slide this battery pack in like this. Let me see if I can get a little better perspective here. You're going to kind of get those wires out of the way and then slide the battery in this way and connect those two connections. But prior to doing this, you're going to want to unplug the garage door opener from the ceiling first. Okay, after plugging the door back into the garage door opener back into the ceiling, you can see here that the blinking green light means that the battery pack is charging. All right, now that I'm done with all that, I went ahead and zip tied all the wires together neatly going up to the ceiling, and that completes the job. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.